All right. Let's get started. When we left off last time, we were on 14b, page, I don't know what page it is in our books. Somebody have a page number? 98. Whoa. Was it senior skip day and nobody told me? I hate that. I'm always the last to know these things. One thing I would like to talk about in connection with this lesson is the idea of how those things are related. Whenever you have a situation in which the two things that you're considering are in a fraction like this, where you have a numerator and denominator, the changes in the numerator and the changes in the denominator have different effects. Let's take out our notes and I'll see if I can give you the concept so that you'll understand that before we go through the process here, or we finish the process in our books. We got started on this yesterday, right? We got, I assigned I assigned all of them, right? Or not? You don't know. Or were we on 14A, weren't we? Yeah, we were on A, sorry. 14A. I assigned 1 through 4. And then I said calculate your own BMI. But I want to show you the situation with the formula BMI equals weight over height squared times 703. Number of variables in this equation. 3, correct? 703 is a constant. In fact, we would probably call that a coefficient, even though it's at the end. And the reason for that coefficient has to do with, this is the pounds and inches way of calculating it. The actual BMI formula is written for kilograms and meters. Well, let me think. Yeah, I'm going to say meters. It might be centimeters. I don't recall exactly. But in that formula, it's just BMI equals mass over height squared. Do you understand the difference between weight and mass? I like to teach it this way. All right, so we have a couple who is on the space station and they're having a fight, okay? And the wife, for whatever reason, gets the idea, I'm going to chuck a frying pan at my husband. Okay? He says, yeah, I'm not worried because we're in space orbiting planet Earth, and in space the frying pan is weightless. So he says, I don't need to duck. Why in the world can't we get all 3 TVs going? Oops, just turned one off when I turned one on. Unbelievable. Did it go back on? No. So he says, I'm not going to duck. Good idea or bad idea? Bad idea, because while the frying pan is weightless, it still has mass. Can you just hit the button there, please? So, another example. You are in space and you are a... You are in space and you are a policeman. And the crook shoots a bullet at you. You say, you know what? I'm not worried because the bullet is weightless. No, that would be a very, very, very bad idea. Everybody agree? Okay. So that's the difference between weight and mass. But if you notice in this case, there is no coefficient with it. But that's not the part that I wanted to play games with here with you. Let's say you have a big weight and a regular height. What happens to your BMI? You get a big BMI. Do you agree that if the numerator gets bigger, your answer gets bigger? Everybody good with that? Okay. Now, let's switch it around. Let's say you have a little weight and a big height squared. What happens to your BMI? Can you give me an example of a person who would have I don't mean the name of a person, but a person who would have that characteristic? Yeah. Okay. Small weight. In fact, that's why you wrestled. I would have to wrestle at 200 pounds. Do they even have that weight classification?
195 or 220.
195 or 220. Okay, in 7th grade, we had wrestling class in PE. Do they still have wrestling in PE?
Yeah.
Anyway, Brett Neuenschwander had his arm broken. And I was like, I'm done with this wrestling thing. I mean, his arm just all of a sudden flopped. And I was like, I'm done. So anyway, every time we would have a wrestling match, well, first of all, I don't like people touching me to begin with. But then you get this wrestling thing. And so whenever we would have the wrestling match, and you're supposed to sit there on your hands and knees, I would just let the guy tackle me, and I would be pinned in 3.1 seconds or something like that. And I got an F in wrestling. I don't know. But I'm not saying it's not a good sport, because for those folks that like it, I think it's great. I played football in 7th and 8th grade, and I got hit so hard. I was like, wow, this football stuff really, really hurts. And so I lettered my entire high school career in football by being the manager. Okay, that was my idea of success. So I finished high school with 15 to 20 letters. I got some in basketball. Although I was the manager in basketball while I was playing, just because I learned how to be an athletic trainer. And so they needed somebody that had the skills to wrap ankles and stuff like that. So the only ankles I never wrapped were my own. But anyway, how did we get down that path? Oh, low weight, but you don't have the big height squared. Can you give me an example of somebody that would fit that category? You're thinking of somebody, Janine. No. I thought you were. So a really tall basketball player, big height, not much weight on them, okay? So what happens to their BMI? You see that it would be very, very small. Now, one of the things I would like you to notice is it's not weight compared to height. They're trying to factor in something about weight versus height that isn't readily apparent when you think about it. Okay? Let's talk about predicting adult height. For females, your height at 18 months is half your adult height. For males, your height at 24 months is half your adult height. Now that's for height, okay? So do you know anybody that's a girl that's 18 months old, right? Or a guy that's 2 years old, a boy that's 2 years old? Are they about this tall? 2-year-old boys? Maybe a little bit shorter. I don't know, somewhere around here, okay? Their height, let's say they're 36 inches, predicts that they will be 6 feet when they're adults. Same with girls, their height at 18 months. Now, I'm not sure why girls is 18 months and boys it's 24 months. Don't know. I always like to think my daughters are just faster than the guys, but that's just my take on it. All 3 of them, by the way, married somebody who is, I'm going to say significantly older than they are. 4 or 5 years older. You know, they just couldn't find a guy that was their age that was like as mature as they were. Oh, Jenny's shaking her head. Do you think that there might be some truth to it?
Yeah,
well, and I think about me when I was a freshman in college. I had one thought on my mind: basketball. Okay, I had a girlfriend, but she was like down here compared to basketball up here.
Why are you gonna do that, Kev?
Well, why did I do that? Because I just have different priorities.
That's why.
I just have different priorities than my classmates did. I don't know. Okay, maybe I was immature, but I mean, I was dedicated towards a goal. Okay. Anyway, how did we get on that track? Oh, 18 months, half the adult height. Here's where we're going, though. Their weight is 1/8 their adult weight. Now think about why would that be? Would you agree that as a baby grows taller, other things happen too? It grows wider and it grows thicker. Okay? I wish more of you would be fishermen. You would understand this one. 17-inch bass compared to a 19-inch bass. The 19-inch will weigh twice as much as the 17, at least twice as much. Okay, so we talk about a 2.5-pound bass, and then we talk about a 5-pound bass, right? And the difference is not in their length. The difference is they get gargantuan in every single direction. Their mouth is like this big around, okay? I caught a fish one time that had a bluegill wedged in it. There was like, you could see the bluegill inside it.
That's amazing.
What's that?
That's cool.
Yeah, they just like swallow stuff that they shouldn't even attempt to swallow. I'll bring a picture of, I'll see if I can find it. I caught a fish this summer that was this long, and my bait was this long. I'm like, dude, what are you trying to do? You are not going to be able to swallow that thing. Dogs chasing cars, right? I mean, what are they going to do if they catch it? What's the point? Anyway, so as you go through this, I would like you to think about those things. And then there's one more aspect of body mass index that is extremely important. Our chiropractor years ago was a specimen of male masculinity. I mean, he was like chiseled, okay? His BMI might have been something like 30, all right? I told you about the defensive back the other day. He was 5'9" and 190 pounds. I weigh 190 pounds and I'm 6'1", okay? Do not tell that 5'9" D-back, dude, you are overweight, because he'd probably pummel you. So BMI is one measure of physical fitness. Anybody know anything about how muscle helps compared to fat in how you look? Muscle weighs more for, well, I think I know what you mean. It's denser, right? Okay, so if you start an exercise program, right? You will appear as though you are skinnier even though your weight stays relatively the same. Anybody have some knowledge about that? Nobody's, yeah.
This is like my experience, because I went to basic training this March through August. So I was like 12 pounds overweight when they shipped me off, and then I stayed that same weight the whole time. And I was like, why didn't I lose any weight? It's because I was getting muscle the whole time. And then when I got back home, I lost 8 pounds just because I wasn't working out.
Okay. You know, and when we went to that wedding a couple weeks ago, there were a bunch of guys there that were on training, and they were in the hot tub, not just males, but females too, and they were in really, really good shape. You can tell somebody that's in good shape just by looking at them, right? They have an in-shape look to them. So BMI is one measure of this aspect that we're talking about. But I would like you to right now finish 2, 3, 4, and then we're going to talk about 5. Okay? Go. I'm going to call up the attendance thing and get that taken care of. Bailey, do you want to go over and sit with Janae and Felicia, or are you going to be okay right there by yourself? Okay. Rach, you got enough companionship, or do you want to sit over by Caitlin?
Yeah,
or Katie?
Do you want to go over this chair? And I got this. I want to.
So you want to? Okay, yes, I will.
I didn't think so. I was like, yeah, I definitely did not. I think this is finished.
I'm going to leave it up just in case Britt gets here.
We're up for $48.
You need some help? Oh, we're on 14. We did that one already yesterday. Okay. Yep. There we are. Number 2. What happened? It died? No batteries? There's what?
There's already computers.
Well, can we move one of them to a different spot?
Or
What is
not even.
mine?
Can we move that since
The other one's Rachel's.
Rachel, can we move your
Yes.
your computer to a different spot to charge?
Yeah, I could probably take it off now.
Because Savannah wants to charge hers. You can plug it in on mine. Oops, did I leave?
There's another charger.
The European plug adapter.
Hey, right there is that one right there. I think you just set on here.
Hey, Liz, like,
Oh, so Nicole, you got them all done?
Yeah, I did them.
You did them yesterday. Okay, so do you think you can help Lauren figure out how to do it? Savannah to figure out how to do it? Janae, you're good? You know what you're doing? Nish, you're good?
Yeah.
How about you guys?
Yeah, I'm good.
Oh,
The big thing that you have with number 2 is you have to change 5'10" into inches, which is
64. No, 70.
70 inches, right?
64.
I didn't mean you didn't have it. I was just making sure everybody understood. That was
And
part of the
I was
problem.
thinking,
I just took my.
no, and that's what
This is my inches, bro.
the only thing that you used.
Yeah,
I don't know.
what inch?
it's sort of discussing weird.
I just put a thing.
So if you substitute in W, like we have here, what does the coefficient become in this problem if you have 703 over 700 squared? Well, on your calculator,
Yeah, I lost.
okay. Well, we're gonna go through it. So they want to just give the table for somebody with a BMI. They want to find a BMI, and they want to reduce it not to 3 variables, but get it back down to 2 variables by saying we're going to develop a formula that works for everybody that is 70 inches tall. Okay? So how would we get that formula? Well, on our calculator, if we take 703 divided by 70 squared, we would have 0.143 weight. Okay? Which is a very easy calculation, right? In Desmos, for instance, nope, that's not it. Kevin. Boom. Sign. Oops. Paused. Sign in again. Okay, now I got it. Okay, so so let's go through the making the table thing again like we did last time. 14a BMI. So if you notice here, we put in the formula y equals 0.143, and then one way that you can do it is you can just see what you would have for a BMI given a certain weight. For example, if the weight is 100, the BMI will be about 15. Obviously, your weight isn't going to go all the way down to 0, right? Because a person who is 70 inches tall, even if they are like in a concentration camp. Oh, I just got done watching a movie, Rising Dawn or Raising Dawn. I can't remember what it was, but it was about a guy who was shot down in Vietnam. Christian Bale was in the movie. Really good movie, but it showed that over the course of time, Christian got like really super skinny. I don't know if you've seen pictures of people that get released from a concentration camp and they're like skin and bones. There is a point at which you can't lose any more weight, right, and still like live. Sad story. WEAU had a reporter on a few years ago, a long time ago. It was a few years ago in Kevin age, but it was in like 1990. And she died of anorexia. She knew she shouldn't be losing weight, but she couldn't like control herself, and so she died of heart failure. And that's because potassium leaches out of your bones and your blood and everything. And potassium is the chemical that turns off your muscles. So her heart would pump, and then it wouldn't unpump. You know how when you get a Charlie horse or what's the other word? Oh, I got cramp. You get a cramp in your leg. That's because you are low in potassium. You don't turn off your muscles, and so her heart just gave out. Really sad story. But anyway, so they shouldn't go all the way down to zero here, okay? But as you get more weight, the BMI goes up. So that's one way to do it, is to just have a graph, and then you can use the graph to determine different points. So like, for instance, what is your BMI at 108? 15.4. What's your BMI at 116.3? 16.685. So you can just go along here in Desmos and get the BMI for any particular value. But if we made a table, okay, we have X1. Tell me what to do here for the second column to have the math work out. What should I write? Nobody knows. See if the person sitting next to you knows. Any ideas? 0.143 X1. Does that make sense? So in other words, all I need to do is whatever weight I put in, I take it times 0.143, and I will get the BMI. So let's say that you have a weight of 200 pounds. Now I wanted to start with one like that because here's a really good exercise for anybody, and that is this value here, you can't readily change, okay? Remember, the BMI consists of two things, height and weight, okay? One of those is pretty much set for you by this time in your life, although I grew another inch after I was a freshman in college, but pretty much you're like the height you're going to be the rest of your life until you get old and shorter, okay? Did I tell you I'm down to 6'1" now? I was 6'2" until I'm actually 6'1 and a quarter. When I went to the doctor the other day. So I'm shrinking. Get used to it, Kevin. But the height is something you can't change. So if the BMI is 200, what kinds of questions would a person ask themselves in connection with filling out a table like this? I want to get into a healthy BMI, right? Okay, so what number does it say a healthy BMI is? It's on, I thought it was on 14A at the top, but I could be wrong.
Between 18.5 and 25.
So I want to make my weight such that it gets it down to 25. Okay, well, I'm getting close, right? Or is that, yeah, that's 25. I'm getting close. Oh, there we go. So somewhere between 180 and 170 would be a good BMI for this person. Now, here's where a doctor will be concerned. Let's say the person has a weight of 120. Ooh, that's unhealthily low, right? Okay? I had a friend who was so frustrated going to the doctor because they would always say, you need to get fatter. And she was like, I eat everything. I do not have anorexia. I just burn my food really, really fast. Okay, do you know anybody that's kind of like that? Okay, so, oops, I marked you absent. Remember to have me mark you present. So what she said was, I just quit going to the doctor because they were just always on my case. Well, oh, by the way, she was a competitive runner too. That probably was why. That was probably, I should have led with that. Is that what you're saying, Keegan? So anyway, she now is normal weight because, I mean, everything kind of worked out eventually. I know when I was a kid, I was super skinny. I wrestled at 73 pounds when I was in 7th grade or 8th grade, whatever. What?
8th grade. You only 73 pounds?
I should show you a picture of me when I was a junior in high school. I was like this tall when I was a junior in high school. So anyway, you see how different weights can help you determine how to adjust your weight in order to find a BMI that's appropriate for you. So let's go to number 3 then. What did you get? The only variables that remain in your formula? Weight and BMI, right? So if he weighs 175, what do you get for a BMI? So BMI of 175 is 25. And then it says he gains 10 pounds. So what should we put into the formula? Which should be, and what do you get for a BMI then? And then a BMI, if he loses 10 pounds, so what should we put in? And we get
23.6.
Okay, so you see how BMI can be affected by these kinds of things. But here's the part that I wanted to spend a little bit of time on. Discuss with your group how you arrived at Joe's BMI value. All you need to do is multiply the weight by the coefficient. What kind of a function is this? You saw the graph. Linear? Everybody agree? It's linear. Does it have an intercept? Yeah, the intercept is 0. If you have a weight of 0, you will have a BMI of 0. Okay, it's just nobody can weigh that little. Did you add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Multiply, right? Okay. Let's do this, though, in our notes, because I want to show you how the math works in our notes. We start with 2 factors, weight and height. To get BMI, and let's say that the height is, what did we say for this case? Height was, which is 70 inches. So really we only have one variable. What are we going to do? We're going to multiply the weight by divide the weight by 70 squared, correct? Times 703. Now I put both of those in one spot because I'm not real sure which one you do first. Okay? Do you multiply first or do you divide first? It doesn't matter which one you do because remember in our order of operations, multiplications and divisions are on the same level. It doesn't matter which order you do them in. But when you do, you get a formula that is 0.143 times the weight. Let's start with that formula. What would be the steps to figure out how to go from BMI to the weight? What should we do? Take the BMI, divide by 703, and multiply by 70 squared. Or in other words, we multiplied by 0.143. What should we do if we start with the BMI? Start with 0.143. Okay? So if we divide the BMI by 1.143, we should get the weight that is in that category. So let's think about the problem according to the ideals. What is the ideal BMI? Or not ideal, what did it say, normal? Healthy. So it's between 18.5 and 25. What does that make the weight between for a person who is 5'10"? Using that formula, what should we do? Well, over on this side, we should take 18.5 and nobody knows. Start with BMI. To get to weight, what do we do? Divide by 0.143. So what do you get for 18.5 divided by 0.143? What'd you get here? Oh, you didn't do it yet? Ren.
What'd you say?
18.5 divided by 0.143. Huh?
12.9?
No,
129.
129. And then what would be the maximum weight to be in the normal range? What would you have to do for that math? Somebody know? Shout it out.
25 by 1.1.
25 divided by 0.143. What do you get?
174.8.
174.8. I think one of the things that's nice to see about this is that normal is not a very narrow range. What is this? 45 pounds? Or is that 35 pounds? 45 pounds. That's a big range that you can weigh in and still be normal. Page 99. Oh, what page number are we on?
97.
Next page, 98. Have you ever seen a video running backwards? Oh man, I gotta find this one. Backward video. Please. Oh, I know where to find it. I can find it in my YouTube videos that I've watched because I just watched it recently. Go to my history. YouTube history. You guys will now see all the dorky things that I look at, huh? Hope I find it soon. Some of these are, I don't even remember looking at some of these. Uh-oh. I'll have to go to my other account, see if I can find them there. So if you want to subscribe to me in this one, Madeline, it's a different account.
I'll find you, kid.
You'll find me. It's kevin.hulke@gmail.com.
I'll write it down.
Okay, now let's try history. Oh, Max, you are quick, buddy.
That was a long time ago. That was like 3 days ago.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay. Oh, here it is. I knew I'd just seen it recently.
And looks at me and says, "Sir, do you have a gun in your car?" So,
What?
You can tell it's in Europe someplace, in the Jewish quarter of some city. I don't know which one. Now, what I think is super cool about that, I'm going to start it over again, and I want you to think about it. Oh, we missed the very beginning part. Wonder why it started not at the very beginning. I don't remember where exactly we came in. Was it around here? Okay. But somebody mentioned what was happening. So you're watching a video going backwards. How does the main actor do stuff in order to have it appear the way that you see it on the screen? He has to be
Walking backwards.
Everybody agree he has to be walking backwards? Everybody else is going forward. And so he has to make it look like he's walking regularly backward. Okay? Now, what's interesting about that is that if you notice as he's going along, things are coming towards him, so he doesn't even know when that thing is going to appear because he's looking this direction and the stuff is going to be happening behind him as he goes. I just think it's really super cool the way they did that. But that is exactly the difference between math and arithmetic. They have the exact same operation. You add, subtract, multiply, and divide. The only thing that you're going to do is do them in reverse order. So in this lesson 14.B, we're going to undo the BMI formula, okay? So I'd like you to get out your pencil, sharpen them, and let's get to work on 14.B. Go! Oh, and Max, I was going to mark your present. So Nicole, did you finish these also?
No.
Oh, okay, good. So, those are the BMIs. Yeah, 18.5 is the BMI. So we know, remember his formula was multiply his weight times 0.143, right? So let's write that down next to this formula up here. So BMI equals 0.143 times weight. Okay? How do you get weight all alone? The opposite of multiplying is not subtracting. That's where people go wrong. Okay, so do you, and that's a very common thing that people think is you have to get rid of the 0.143, and so they think it's going to be subtracting points, or subtract the 0.143. But it's, you can't get rid of a number that's multiplied by subtracting. You have to get rid of a number that's multiplied by dividing. And so what would your new formula be there? W equals got it? So now you can do what? W equals BMI over 0.143. So now you can take those BMIs, and what are you going to do to get the weight for the first one? Okay, so what do you get for the first one? Is that what you guys are looking for? For the weight. So you did the same thing wrong that Brandon did. I don't know. Can I see your calculator to see what you've done? 8? Oh, it's 0.143. Now what's good? So it doesn't make sense that it's weighted 0.81. Okay, now, Nicole wrote down an answer for the second one, right? So, Nicole, tell Lauren what your number was that you wrote down. Does that make sense that the BMI was 18 and the weight was 129? Now the BMI goes to 25 and the weight goes to... Say that like for 1.25. Does that make sense? So BMI went up, so the weight went Huh? Okay, do the last one too, okay? And then go on to the next one.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, you missed the first part of the class. Back here, we said that, buddy, Joe is 5'10". Okay, so if you take the formula here, 70, okay, 70 squared in the denominator. If you take,
Let's suppose that you're writing a really important
take
email to a
this
colleague
formula weight over 70 squared times 73.
or a post on Facebook that all your friends will see,
That you only need one coefficient.
or a paper for your English class that you just have to get an A on,
70 times 703 divided by.
or a resume for your dream job, or a message to your crush on a dating site. The point is that you write
So we would
important
say
things each
we
and
can
every day.
simplify this formula here.
And whether you're an English
that for
professor
anybody,
or an English learner, we all
we
could use a
can
second
find
pair of
their
eyes to help us
BMI
make sure
by
we're
just
always putting our best foot forward.
So that's what we did here in this lesson.
Enter Grammarly, a writing app developed by some of the world's leading linguists. Grammarly helps you find and fix grammar, spelling, and punctuation errors wherever you write. Errors that other spelling and grammar checkers just can't catch.
Then he gains 10 pounds.
Grammarly also helps you improve word
No,
choice
no,
and
no.
style.
10 pounds, not gains 10
It's
BMI.
clear and compelling all the time. Best of all, it's free. Better writing, better results. Click on the button to
No,
download
not
Grammarly
165,
now.
165. What'd you say? 23?
Squared. Yeah. I was like, why am I not?
Let's start up here. What was that formula that we just used in the previous lesson? BMI equals 1.145. Now let's get the W out of the way
So, okay.
and write it over.
So,
W equals.
So we got,
Okay, now here's where one
this is the formula.
there's the hundred.
So we know this height.
This is multiplied.
So,
So if they
you
multiply,
figure out how to get weight,
divided,
weight base. This
That's why I don't.
That's what we had to do.
now here's the algebra way. Sort of.
Yeah, there's like a simpler way to get the different.
You have to be.
So you, what did I do?
But you have to use the inverse process. So the opposite of multiplication.
So 75 squared is
But the opposite of addition is
so
subtraction.
you take
Okay?
squared.
So you have to use the inverse operation. Now, if you know this is the formula, and you're given 18.5, just plug it in and what do you get?
No, how did you get 0.15?
So what's so part A. We're plugging in.
Yeah, that's what it is. Yep. So
Are you guys okay? You sound like you're having a good discussion.
divided by. No.
Talking about math.
I know.
I
That's
got
what
it.
and I could tell because you weren't laughing. Did you notice that? You were in deep concentration. Are you guys okay? Gavin? Gavin?
Yeah.
Brandon, you good? Number 3.
Pretty
Good question.
figured it all out.
Okay, so it's
So you take 703 and you divide it by 8 squared.
Yeah, the question is, how can you simplify your equation
Which
so that you can just use the same equation, kind of like
and change it to this equation. W weight
what didn't
at
wait. So why don't you take your formula BMI
So you can literally just plug in any weight. And multiply it by
115
you get a BMI for a person.
over
75
squared.
But what we need is we need to be able to plug in BMI.
So what do you get
Switch around so it's BMI divided by 0.15.
No. When you
So then you can plug in, like we have 18.5 is one of the BMIs, 18.5.
80,845
equals
And what are you going to do?
148.
Height squared. Okay.
That's a lot of. But it's right.
Yes, that's right.
It looks right to me. Sally's way too much.
Okay, what was the math that you did for Philip when he had a BMI? This is, man, what question number is this? Question number 1. What was the BMI you did?
It's going to be all panicky and freak out. It's glorious.
Oh, hey, you guys, I think your numbers are going to be wrong because he's 6'3" and we did it as though he was 5'10". Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I didn't notice that he was 6'3". BMI equals weight over how many inches is that? 6'3".
75.
75 squared times 703. If we do that on our calculator, we get 703 divided by 75 squared. Does it make sense that his BMI coefficient is smaller than Phil's or whatever the guy was last lesson who was 5'10"? His coefficient is smaller because he's taller, so he can weigh more, right? Everybody agree with that? So, I'm sorry, yeah, so I did steer you down the wrong path. You got the right answers now. So what did you do for your calculation for part A?
I did
17.5, is that the BMI they're given?
18.5.
18.5 divided by 0.125, right? Is that what you guys did, Keegan?
Yes.
And what did you get for an answer?
For that one I got 148.
148 pounds. Lauren, does that make sense? That I made a mistake?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. Nicole, you good?
Yep.
Felicia, you got it? So what did you get for B, Felicia?
Well, I did it.
Okay, redo it now.
So we take 25 divided by
0.125. And then what did you get for C, Bailey? 241 pounds. Okay, now mathematically, how can you tell these numbers make sense? Because as the BMI gets bigger, the weight gets bigger. Okay, we'll take our break. When we come back, I want to spend some time on that next question. We'll come back at 5 after.
Every day rain or shine. You, good sir, deserve a vacation.
You know, I don't really travel a whole lot. Don't really know where I go.
Oh.
Hey! Just the one today.
This one's for you. Find your place and go.
Don't just give a gift. Give them a more detailed picture of their origins. Give them Ancestry DNA.
Hey guys, here's 5 cool things you can try out when you're bored. So you can make your phone into nearly a microscope by using an old lens from the inside of a camera or the lens from an old CD drive. Check it out. Using the zoom on the camera, you can get an extreme close-up of objects. Nice. Take a bottle and chop it in half like so. Now find some material and attach it with elastic bands to the end of the bottle like this. Dip it in some bubble solution, and now you've made whatever this is supposed to be. Okay. Find a strike lighter and remove the strike oil and take out the flint and spring from underneath. Wrap up the flint in the spring like so. Now heat up the flint until it turns red. Once the flint is burning red, throw it at the ground to make a mini firework. Nice. Fill up some wine glasses with water and use black and white images to create some really cool effects using refraction. Interesting. And finally, find a thick-walled copper pipe and a powerful magnet. Drop the magnet through the pipe and you'll notice something rather epic. The magnet drops ridiculously slow. Cool. So there we have it. 5 things you can do when you're bored. And if you're still bored, you could always try this.
Okay, because you do them. Is there something that I need to do for that? Because I was struggling, like, I don't know how I'm not opposed to helping that, I just don't know what I.
So, just tests.
Okay, yeah, and I'm fine with that. I don't think that'll be okay.
Remember your first bite? No, your first real.
Okay, because I need you to be comfortable. I don't want you to be comfortable.
Your first real truck. The GMC
And I can
Sierra.
accept nothing less than.
Step up to GMC with nearly $10,200 total value on this specially equipped GMC Sierra SLT, or get nearly $11,200 when you finance through GM Financial.
Hey guys, so here's 5 more cool science tricks you can try out when you're bored. Find a speaker or subwoofer and place a container of water over it. Now crank up the bass and watch the wave patterns. You can even add a little food colouring or cornstarch for interesting variations.
That's stupid.
Now we've all heard of the ping pong ball on a hairdryer trick, but you can do other things with ping pong balls. Try sticking the ping pong ball to some string and watch how it attracts to a flow of water.
I want to do it. I told my mom how to do
Okay, before we go
Also,
on to
try
number
filling up a
2,
bottle to the brim with water
let's
and
look
place
at
the
the
ball on
formula
top.
again. It says BMI equals weight over height squared. And for
Now
both
flip over the
Joe
bottle and you'll
and
notice
Phil,
the ball magically stays in place.
They took those 3 variables and they eliminated
Cut
the
out some
same
cloth
one
from an old
by
t-shirt
saying
that's
we're
made
going
from
to make
100%
this
cotton.
a constant value.
Sew the material
For
using
Joe,
more cotton
that constant
into a
value
ball.
was 70, and for Phil it was 75. What did they change from a
There we go.
variable into
Now for this to work,
a
you need to
constant
douse the
value?
ball in lighter fluid that contains naphtha.
This one, or this one?
You should be able to ignite the ball and actually hold it
For both
without
Joe
being burnt.
and Phil. Height, right? Let's look at
Nice.
number
And if you ever need to extinguish it,
2
just clamp your hand together.
and 3.
Mix up some dish
Do
soap
you
with water
see that
and
for
add
number
a small
2,
amount of
we
glycerin.
aren't going to make height the constant value.
Now wet
We're
the
going
surface
to
with
make
the mixture and use a straw to
weight
see how many bubbles
constant
you can
value.
blow inside
Does
the bubble.
anybody have the simplified formula for BMI for Sally? They got to make up better names than that. I mean, nobody's name. How many Sallys do you know? In real life, I do know.
Make
a
sure
Sally.
the end of the straw
I
is
don't
also
remember her
wet,
last
otherwise
name
you'll
now,
end
but
up
she used to
bursting
be
the bubbles.
Sally Ryan. That's the one. She's way older than me. She might even be 75-ish.
Finally, find a battery, a magnet, and a
Yeah.
length of copper wire.
Her brother is
Connect
my
the
age.
magnet to the bottom of the battery.
That's the one.
Then
Okay,
bend a pivot
what did you
point
get for
in
a
the center of the wire.
simplified formula? Does anybody have one?
Bend the wire around each side so that each end makes contact with the magnet.
BMI is, psh.
And now you've made a mini electric motor. Awesome.
How much?
So there we have it.
Simplified.
5 more things you can do when you're bored.
45 divided by height squared.
I'll see you next time.
80,000. Brandon, what did Eric do there? Okay. Divided by height squared is the BMI. Now, there is one operation that people sometimes do with this because
Wow, hun,
they
this
like
is
to think of
incredible.
a coefficient as always being multiplied by a number. And so they might
Don't
say
just give a gift.
height
Give them
to the
a more
negative
detailed picture of the
second.
origins.
What
Give them answers to
mathematical idea did they use to take height squared in the denominator to make it height to the negative second in the numerator? Anybody know? The rules for powers, right? Dividing by a positive power is the same as multiplying by it's not reciprocal, it's to the negative of that power. So in the case of number 3, let's do the first one together. And this side of the room do divided by height squared, and this side of the room multiply by height to the negative second. So step 1 is you can't put 5-3 into your calculator. You have to put 63, right? So you guys are going to press 80,845 divided by 63 squared, and you guys are going to do 80,845 times to the, use your to the key. Can you find your to the key? You have to put in the 63 first. Times 60, don't, 80,845 times 63, and then your to the key is, yeah, there you go, to the negative 2. Did you get that on your calculator? Let's see how you press it. 80,000. Did you get it, Nicole? Yep. No, it's 80,845. No, 1 0 in there first. 845. No, 80,845. That's okay. Times 63 to the key to the negative key. And you got what kind of a BMI? What'd you guys get? 20.4. If you give me an example of a number that wouldn't make sense for BMI. What? Negative. Everybody agrees. Anything less than about 15 would be really hard to come by. Correct? Anything over about 60 would be really hard to come by. Let's see how much would a person who was 5'3" tall, and they had a BMI of 600. I mean, not 660, excuse me. I was doing their weight. Remember what we did with BMI for somebody that was, let's do 5'10" or 6'3", either one. Because we've got the number for each of those. So we take 60 divided by 0.143 or 60 divided by 0.125, either one of those. What do you get for a weight? 419 pounds. Is it possible for a person to weigh 419 pounds?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody watch any of those shows? Yeah. What? Yeah. It's way better than watching the dermatologist that pops pimples. That one is just way too much. Okay, I think so too. I have a friend who worked for the volunteer fire department, and this was a national story. This guy had some kind of an event that they had to evacuate him from his house. He weighed over 1,000 pounds. They had to cut a hole in his house to get him out of the house and to the hospital. I can't remember what they used to carry him into the tow truck. They couldn't use an ambulance. Okay, and they had to get him into the hospital. I can't remember what it was. Oh, another story. So my mother-in-law had a stroke.
At that point, why would you say his life?
Well, he did die soon after that. I'll have to ask Jake about that. I know. I'll have to ask Jake about that. But anyway, my mother-in-law had a stroke while we were at the restaurant. And I'll tell the funny parts of the story first. So anyway, she's like trying to stab her potatoes or whatever, and she was missing it by a foot. And I said, "Are you okay?" And like that. And then I said, "Squeeze my hands." And she squeezed this one hard and this one not at all. And I said, "You're having a stroke." Okay, so here's the funny part. Her husband just keeps on eating his pizza. I was like, "We have to go to the hospital." "Oh, okay." "No, we have to go to the hospital now." So anyway, we got her into the wheelchair, down the elevator to the car, and on the way, putting the wheelchair into the trunk, I dislocated my thumb. I occasionally do that. It dislocates pretty easily. And I was like, "Ooh, I'm in really bad pain." I'm the only one of the 4 people there that could drive to the hospital.
Hi, I'm
so I
Senior
pull up to the
Styling
hospital.
Director
They have an
Jason Penny, and I'm
emergency
back to
exit.
answer your styling
So anyway,
question.
I go inside and I say,
customers
"I
wants to know
need somebody
what the most
really
popular
big to
items
lift
will be
this
this
lady
fall.
because she can't
So
lift
today I'm
herself
gonna show
tall."
you some of our
So
fall
this
favorites
nurse
you'll
comes
want in your
out. She's
closet
about
right
this
now.
tall. And she goes over and she grabs her and she puts her into the wheelchair. So one of the things I learned is
Fringe detail creates a fashion
it's not how
so
big
fun
and
and
strong you are,
unexpected.
it's
I mean,
knowing
how
how
cute
to
is
do stuff
Now, you might be
that is
thinking,
very,
a
very
sweatshirt
helpful.
isn't exactly
Well, anyway,
something you'd wear to a party, but oh
I
yes it is
can't
when you pair it with
imagine
a faux
how
leather
hard
skirt
it
and
is to
party
lift
ready
somebody
heels.
like
Or if
that
you're
that
just
is
feeling the
just
skirt,
dead
throw on a
weight.
pair of joggers, keep
It's
your
just,
heels, then adjust
no,
your bag, and head
it's-
to that party feeling
It's
comfortable.
worse than trying to lift like a bag of concrete because at least the bag of concrete has some kind of form to it. Whereas if you're
On busy
jelly,
mornings, nothing's easier than throwing
can't
on a
even
dress you
grab
love
hold
and
of
being
them.
able to walk
Anyway.
out the door feeling put together. Am I right?
Now,
This shirt
why
has
is it
easy
important to
and
develop this formula
It also has
for
this great
Sally?
waist
Well, it
detail that
says
gives you
she's
shape.
5'3".
Adds an edge
Let's
to your
do
opposite
the
foot
other
with this pleather
two
motor jacket
heights
and fabulous
using
boots.
the other
I love
group's
the idea of
formula.
taking a chunky sweater
So
and
now
wearing
you
it
guys
under
are
the
going
dress.
to do
This black sweater works with the
5'6".
pattern of the dress
What would we
and
get
creates
for a
a
height?
totally different look to
5'6"
transition into
is
fall.
66. So you're going to
This season,
multiply
you're gonna see
by
lace details on everything.
66
And
to
especially with
the
this comfy sweater. Gives it a little something
negative
extra.
second. And you guys
We
are
can all
going
agree,
to
leggings in the fall are a beautiful thing. But let me introduce
80,
you to the
845
Get excited, people.
divided
These are the fancy
by
leggings. But they have a bit
66
more
squared. What do you
structure
get?
and are made of thicker fabric. It can take you anywhere. Girls' night out with a coordinating heel and crossbody bag, or running errands with sporty sneakers.
I forgot what you had for 5'3". What was her BMI?
21.4.
21.4?
20.4.
And then the BMI for
Hey
66?
guys, in this video I'm going to show you how to make this awesome glowing LED emblem light. Nice.
Was what?
To start with, I purchased this thick A5 sheet of acrylic.
So my
from
question
eBay.
is,
For the base,
the
I found this
number
plastic lid from a
got
Lego
bigger,
box. Now,
right?
you could use many things for a
66
base,
is
but I
bigger than
decided to use this
63.
as it's hollow
Why
underneath
did the
and you can
BMI
easily cut into
go
it
down?
using a knife.
As
As you can
because the
see,
weight
the
stays
acrylic
the
was
same.
thick
I don't know
enough
if
to
you've
fit
noticed
perfect
this about
in the
little
center.
kids before they start to crawl.
Now, all that
They
was
are
needed
chubby,
was to
right?
mark out where to
But
cut
then as soon
and
as they
use a
start to
Stanley
crawl, what
knife
happens?
to remove the strip of plastic, leaving ridges
they
at each
slim
end.
down, right? Why? Well, they didn't like. Well, I suppose they did grow a little bit longer, but their weight dropped because they were
There we
getting
go.
more exercise than they were before. So I was
Once
reading a
I've
book
done
the other
that,
day, and
I
it said
smooth
back
down
in
the
day,
edges with a file
they used
so
to
that
say,
the
put
acrylic
your kid
will
into
fit
a
nicely.
playpen and then take them out and play with them, and that will be a good way to raise your kid. If you put your kid into a daycare and they have a whole bunch of playpens
Now, I'm a fan
lined
of
up,
Batman, so I
don't go
found
to
this
that
nifty plastic
daycare.
stencil, which
Why?
I'm going to use to help carve the design onto the acrylic.
And
If
just
you're good
leave
at
them,
crafts,
okay?
you
What
could
kind
create
of
your own stencil and
interaction
carve
does
out
that
whatever
kid
design
get?
you like.
Anybody watch the movie,
I then positioned the stencil
Back to the
and
Future,
taped it to the
where the
acrylic.
brother was in the playpen and he was, or I guess it was
Before
a
you
crib, I
carve
can't
out the
remember.
design,
But anyway,
make
later on
sure
he
to
turned
place
out
the
be a
acrylic
criminal
on
or
something
something,
soft.
and the brother
This should
says,
prevent
"Yep,
the back
get
from
used to the
scratching."
view from the future or something like
To
that.
actually carve out
Okay.
the design, I'm using this
Page.
cheap rotary tool which I got from a
now we're
local
going to
DIY
go.
store.
I think that was the end of it,
For
right?
the outline, I used the pointy rounded
Sally
end
continues
piece.
to grow
And to
taller
colour
while
in, I
maintaining
used
her
the
weight.
sphere piece.
She eventually reaches
So
an
basically, I
unhealthy
carefully etched in the
BMI
stencil
of
using
18.
the rotary tool.
How is this problem different
When you're doing
from
this,
question
there's
one,
no
where
need
you
to
were
be
given the
heavy-handed,
BMI
and
values
you don't
for
need
Philip?
to carve it too deep.
Instead
You just
of
need to rough it up enough to make it look like
factoring
it's
in
been
or
etched.
finding the weight, in this case, we're going to factor in and find the height. So let's start with that formula,
Not far away now.
where we have 80,845 times height squared.
Once that was done, I removed the
BMI
stencil.
equals 80,845 times height squared. How do we get the height
Looks good.
all alone?
I made a slight error here, but overall I was pleased with the outcome.
Step one.
After that, I secured the base
Divide
to the
by
acrylic using hot glue along the slanted edges.
845, so we get BMI over
I still have a load of these
8,845
color-changing LEDs
is
from previous
height
projects.
squared.
So I chopped off
Now
a small strip
is the
and then
hard
added
one.
hot glue at each end
The
and stuck
inverse of
directly
adding is
underneath the
subtracting.
acrylic.
The inverse of multiplying is dividing. What's the inverse of squaring?
There we go.
So
I
let's
then
take the
figured out
square
where I
root
wanted
of
the
both
external
sides.
cable to go,
And so
and
height
filed
will
out a
be
groove so that it fits through. It's all pretty
BMI
simple.
divided by 8,845 square
And now
root. And there's
it's
one
ready to test
really important thing to pay attention to. Plus or minus. Now, mathematically,
I might just put that on my
you
bedside
do
table.
get two answers, a positive one and a negative one. How do you know in this case that only the positive one makes sense? You can't be a negative sum.
So there we have it.
What'd you get
How
if
to
you
make
substitute
an
in
LED emblem
that
light.
BMI of 18?
I'll see
What are
you
you going
next
to press
time.
on your calculator? Square root. What? $18 divided by 8084.5, and you get, ooh,
Zero stress. Enjoy
what
body
did I do
form
wrong?
comfort with integrated footrests, backrests, and headrests, and over 100 top-grade leather choices. Zero stress. Comfort.
Oh, this wasn't our original formula.
In this video, we're going to be making some flexible LED panels for video or photography work. Now, not only are these things, well, incredibly bright, but they're also
That should have been
super
to the
practical
negative
thanks
second.
to their ability to be folded
To
into
the negative
pretty much
second.
any shape.
So this should be to the negative
also
second. So we have to
dual color
redo
temperature.
our
And what this means is that you
our
can, fade
formula
between
here.
warm
So
and
on your
cool light
calculator,
for different lighting effects.
you don't have
They're also
that.
super light as well.
They
weigh in at 200 grams, which is about half a pound, and that allows them to be mounted pretty much anywhere. And the best part?
You
well,
might
can be
need to
built
write it
for
this way:
around 40 pounds, which is roughly
BMI
$60,
over
which is incredible value, especially when you consider how bright they do go and how
to
good
the
the
negative
is. More on
one
that in a bit.
half.
This is
Okay,
something that's been
so you
highly
have to
requested
take
by you guys.
your calculator
So sit
doesn't
back
have the
and
negative
enjoy.
second key, although
So the first thing we'll need for this build are some
Savannah's
LED
does.
strips.
Her
These have
calculator has
surged
a
in
negative second
popularity
key,
in recent
and I
years
think if you
and
go
are
to
available
math
from places
in
like
your
Amazon
graphing
and
calculator,
eBay for very little money. However, one
it's
huge
number 5.
consideration when buying these strips is the quality of their light output, which is
So I
a very
could
important
take,
factor when it comes to video work. You see,
negative
cheaper strips
2
tend to have very
second
low
function
CRI values,
math,
meaning that colours can be very muted
number
and
5,
sometimes suffer from horrible colour
and then I
casts.
have negative 2
Finding quality strips
root,
for not much money is
okay,
a big challenge,
804,
and I went through dozens of strips from different
15,
suppliers
no,
before I found a
18
set that were good enough for this build.
divided by 8,
Despite their low cost, the way they
8,
render colours
5.
is fantastic.
Did you
Certainly
get
good enough for most users,
67
as I will
pounds?
demonstrate later.
Did
So that
anybody
you
get
guys won't have
67
to
pounds
hunt
when we
around,
did it?
I've placed international purchasing links to these
You don't
good
have a
quality
calculator.
strips in the description.
Must be tough.
Though
You
as
don't
they
have
ship
a-
directly from a factory
lost-
outlet
sound
store
like
in
my
China,
grandson.
you may
Grandpa,
want
did
to
you know
order
that I
them
lost
straight
my
away
watch
so that
last
you aren't
spring?
left waiting for them to
I do
arrive
that by
when you
phone,
want to start
which
this
you can do the
project.
calculator on, but you cannot do
Now,
the
as we're making a
specific
dual
actual-
colour temperature panel, we
Okay,
need to
just
get
do
two
square
different colour
cubes, I think.
temperatures to fade
I
between.
did.
There
Now,
are three
is that an
variations to
iPhone?
choose from, so
Yes.
make your choice based on
Unfortunately,
your
I have
needs.
not
I'm
found
going to go
the
with the pure white
TI-84
version
graphing
and the
calculator
neutral white
for an
version.
iPhone yet.
This is because when they're both
Yeah,
at
my
maximum
calculator's like
brightness, the
somewhere
colour
like that.
balance
But-
ends up being very similar to daylight, which is a
Caitlin, is yours
fantastic midpoint
an
to
iPhone
have.
also?
Yeah.
Some of you will want the panel to extend
I-
more towards tungsten,
Did somebody
however,
find
so feel
a
free to use
TI-84
pure white
graphing
and white if
calculator
that's what's
for the
required by
iPhone?
your
I can't
needs.
believe they don't have one.
A single
If-
5-metre roll on each
What?
colour temperature is enough to make a roughly 30 centimetre square panel, which is what we're going to be making first,
Okay.
as it's a great size to start with.
and I
So the first
totally
thing to do is
understand
cut
that
each
because,
strip
like
into
I said
30
the other day,
centimetre lengths,
why would anybody
making sure to
pay
always cut through the exposed
like
copper
what are
pads.
these? $100?
As you cut through the two
for
rolls, make sure that you keep each
almost
colour temperature separate so
30-year-old
that you end up with
technology.
two piles,
These are
each
approaching
consisting
30
of
years
16
old.
strips. These colour temperature sets will be wired up separately later
Can't believe
so
it.
that they can be dimmed independently.
TI is making
giving
money
us the
hand over
ability to
fist.
fade between them.
Okay.
With
If
that
you
done, it's
don't
now time
have
to
that
work on
key,
the backing of the
I don't
panel.
know what
What
you
we'll
would
need for this
do
is some false leather. While there's
on
nothing
your
stopping you from
calculator
using
how
other
you would
materials,
get it.
false
Yeah,
leather is a
Sam.
good option because it doesn't fray and is easy to work with. So we'll
process,
first
but
mark
could
and
you
cut out a
have the
38 centimetre
equation
square,
be like 18
and then
equals
place it backside up on a flat surface,
18,845
ready for
over
us to begin sticking
h
the strips
squared,
to.
and then you, like, cross
The strips
multiply?
themselves have a sticky adhesive
way.
on the back, a bit
Is
like
that-
tape.
I don't know if that might
The problem
help
is that
at
it
all.
doesn't
So
stick
you
very well
say
to this kind of
18
surface, so it needs some
equals
extra help. What we'll
H
need is some flexible
squared.
glue that will
Yeah,
adhere
so
to
that
both the fabric and the back of the
80,845
strips,
over the h
which can
squared,
just be squashed down on
80,000.
top.
Yeah. And then
This
you, like,
first strip needs to be positioned equidistant from each
cross-multiply and
side,
then-
and about 3 centimetres up from the bottom. Now we need to repeat the process, but this time with a strip of the other colour temperature. When you do this, make sure that each strip is put the right way.
So do that math and see what you get.
This needs to be repeated over and over until all of the strips have been stuck down in an alternating colour
Do that
temperature
math.
pattern.
That you can do on your
As you go,
calculator.
it's likely that some strips
Keegan,
will
do you
start
have your
peeling back,
phone or
as
not?
the glue isn't
Because that one
particularly
you
fast
should
drying.
be able to do. You've got a
To
square
combat
root.
this, we'll squash it underneath something
So do
flat
that.
and then leave it to dry, which can take
square
several
root,
hours depending on the glue.
80,845 divided by 18.
Once dried, the strip should be very secure, and as you can see, it's so flexible that you can even roll
Did you
it
get
up.
67 pounds?
Now it's time to
Okay.
add the wiring.
Good job,
We'll need
Sam.
two sets
Way
of
to go.
wires for this.
Okay,
one black
next
and
one.
red.
Let's open up our
As we're going
supplement.
to start by wiring up the
And
negative
we are on
we'll
page
get a bit of the black
65.
wire and strip a fair bit of insulation.
There was a meteorological
We can then
event
move up the
yesterday
wire
that
about
just
2.5
made all
centimetres
meteorologists
and pull that section
ecstatic.
of the insulation
What
towards the
was
end
it?
of the wire like so.
What about
This
Hurricane
needs
Michael?
to be repeated until there are 9 total exposed sections on the wire.
But it was
Now we need to
predicted to
fold the
be
wire
at
to each of these
most a
points, after which it's ready
3,
to solder
and
the
in a
glue.
day it grew from a
We'll
1
start at the bottom of
to
the
a
panel.
4.
As you can see,
And
each
the
strip has
reason they
positive
were
and negative
ecstatic
pads
was they've
clearly
never
marked.
seen that
So we can
kind
solder
of
our
growth
black
before,
wire
and
to the
so they
pads
had no
marked as
parts
negative.
of their model
As we have two
that would have
alternating rows
predicted
of colour temperatures,
why
however,
it grew
we need
that
to skip
big.
every other row so that we
Anybody
only wire
heard
up
the
one
latest
colour
on
temperature set.
what their theory is?
We need to
Why
then
it
get
got to
a
be such a
red
big
wire
storm?
and do the same again, soldering
Two
it to the
things.
positive pads instead.
One, the waters
As you
of
can
the
see, the
Gulf
last
of
sections of the
Mexico
wires
were
need to be left loose.
super hot.
The
Okay,
whole
I can
process needs
tell
to
you
then
this.
be
We used to
repeated,
go,
only
we
this
lived in
time
Florida,
starting
we used
from
to
the
go
other
over
side,
to
so that the
Gulf of
wires meet
Mexico
in the middle.
in the summer.
Now, you might suppose
And
that
go
we're
in the
going to
water,
connect these
and the
wires
water
up in
would be
parallel,
as warm
but
as the
nope.
air.
Instead,
You
what
did
we're
not
actually going to do
cool
is
off
wire them
by
up
going
in
to the
series.
On
This
the
means
Gulf
that the
side, you
voltage
could go to
supplied
the
to each
Atlantic
strip is
side and
halved,
cool off, 'cause
and
the
there are
water's
several
there.
very good reasons for doing this,
Okay,
which
it
I'll
was-
go into
it
further
was hot
detail
water.
about later.
It's
So
5
we'll trim
degrees
down one of the
warmer
black wires and
than
then solder the red
usual
wire from
this
the
summer.
opposite
Well,
side
I guess
to
it's
it.
still summer down
This
there.
leaves us with a red and black wire which we'll later use to power the strips.
But there was one other
what
aspect that
we
they
need
think
is some
it
twin
grew to,
wire,
and that was they were
with
watching
each
the
wire
eye, and
containing
usually an
two
eye
cores.
kind of wobbles
Each of the
and
cores
forms
needs to be
slowly. Well,
reasonably
this
thick
eye all of a
so that
sudden
they can
took a
carry the
perfect
power effectively.
eye shape.
One of these pairs
And the
can then be
reason they
soldered to
said
the red and
was
black wires,
it
taking
had
note
no
of the
wind
polarity
shear.
and
There was
using
no
some heat shrink or
like jet
electrical
stream
tape
knocking
to
off the
insulate the
top
joints
of the
afterwards.
hurricane. And
Now
so the
that we have
hurricane
one
was
colour
just
temperature set
acting like
wired
a
up, we can
chimney
move over to
the
the
whole
opposite
way,
side
and it
and
hit
wire
the
up
Gulf
the other colour
Coast
temperature set in the same way.
smack on. They,
Here
in
I
the
use
paper
a
today,
white
they
wire
said it
for
was
the
like
positive connection,
they were
just to
holding
differentiate.
on to it with a rope.
Now we
And
can
then
take
they
a knife
suddenly
and
let
score a
go,
little
and it
slot
just
in the bottom of the
exploded.
panel for the
Okay.
wire to be
Now
threaded
somebody
through.
said it
Afterwards,
went
we
from
can
a
use a sharp
4
point to make some
to
holes in
a
the side of the
1
wire and
really
use a cable
rapidly.
tie to clamp the
Okay.
wire to the false
What
level,
would cause it to go
leaving
from
enough
a
length
4
on
to
the
a
other side
1?
for the
Well,
wires
if
to
it
run
being
around
over
the
that
perimeter of
warm
the
water
panel.
and it started being over
Now,
the land,
later
that
on,
was
we'll be
one thing
folding
that
over
happened.
material to
But the
meet
other
up
thing
the
that
edges and to
equally
protect the
happened, and that
wiring.
is
But
we
before we
had
do that, we'll
huge
just mark along the
winds
fold paths
here
until they
that were
intersect.
blowing the top
Now what we
of
can do
the
is mark the
hurricane down
point
there.
3 centimetres
I
long
saw
from the
pictures
intersection
of
on
the
each side.
Lake Superior yesterday.
And then use a knife to cut a
14
slot
to
along this
18
length,
foot
giving us
waves
an
on
inner
Lake
corner.
Superior yesterday.
Now what we need to do is cut two 5 by
Anybody ever
5
been in
centimetre
waves like
squares
that?
out of some
No,
spare
don't
false
plan on
leather,
it either.
and then cut
The,
them in half
the biggest
diagonally,
waves I've been
giving
in,
us 4 right
we were on a
triangles. On each triangle,
sulfur
we now need to
tanker
make a
in the
mark
Gulf of
that's 2
Mexico. I think
centimetres
we
away
had
from
like
its
5.5 foot
hypotenuse,
waves.
and
But
then
the
make
thing
a
is, the
parallel
sulfur
cut
tanker
down
was
its
like
length.
1,000 feet long.
After
And
doing
so,
this to all
who
4
cares? I mean, you
triangles,
didn't even-
we can
you
slot
didn't
them
even
underneath
notice
the
it.
inner corners we made earlier,
I've been on
and add some
Lake
super
of
glue
the
along
Woods
the
with
outside
4
edges.
foot waves.
We'll
and I
follow
was
this up with some
afraid
fabric
for
glue
my
and then
life.
fold the tabs
If
over.
you're ever on a
The
boat
super glue
where the
works as a
captain
quick
puts
grab
his
to
life
keep the
jacket
tabs
on,
held down until the
you're in
slower
big
drying
trouble.
fabric glue cures.
Okay. Start praying.
After you've done this 4
Because
times,
the end
you'll
is
have
near.
some little
Okay,
corner pockets.
what does that have to
you'll
do with
want to
this
use to
lesson?
mount the panel
Well,
onto
this
an arm.
lesson is going to be talking
Now,
about
as the panel
wind
at this point is still
chill
super
factor.
floppy, we need
Now,
to give it some
if
rigidity
you
so
notice
that it can
here,
support itself.
they
To do this, we'll
digested
need some steel
everything
wire,
down
usually
to
found in the gardening section of most hardware
two
shops.
variables, wind
This wire
and
needs to be bent
temperature.
around the perimeter of our strips.
Okay, now
and then
this
joined
is the
together where they
temperature
meet
of the
with some
air.
super glue.
along
This
here.
is just to hold it in
This
place to make
section of the
next steps
table
easier,
here is
rather
the
than for
wind
structural
chill
integrity.
factor.
So after putting some masking
Okay.
tape down over the
So
strips,
do you
we now
see,
need to
it's
add
just like what
generous
we've been
amounts of
doing,
glue
where we
around the
had
edges.
weight and
Silicone
height
tapes are great for
to
this, so long as
determine
they dry
BMI.
flexible, but
We're
make sure
going
that
to be
it isn't an
using
acid
wind
pure
and
variety, as that
temperature
will likely corrode
to
the metal.
determine
We
wind
don't
and
need to go
chill
right up to
factor.
the corners at this point,
So,
as they'll be sorted
question
out
number one,
separately
what would
later.
the wind chill
So now what we need
be
to do is fold over
if
the
the
material
temperature is
and use
0
something
and the
like a
wind is
ruler
blowing
to
at
push the
25
material's
miles
edge
per hour?
downwards
See if the
whilst
person
glue
sitting next
dries.
to you gets the same answer you do. We're
The
on
masking tape can then
supplement
be peeled off,
page
and any excess glue
65.
can
I
be
should
trimmed
print
with
yours
a
out for you so that
When you do this, be
you
careful
have
not
it.
to cut into the strips underneath. After this has been done for all the sides, we need to work on the corners. We'll start by cutting through the loop and then trimming them diagonally so that they meet neatly at a 45-degree angle. We can then glue them down, using some masking tape if necessary to help hold them in place whilst they dry. Once each corner has been done, the panel should look something like this. Thanks to the steel wire we just added, it can now be bent into different shapes, and it should now be strong enough to support itself. Now, the next thing to sort out is the dimming controls.
Notice
What
there's a
we'll need
red
for this
light.
are two specific dimmers, links to which you can find in the description. These dimmers work by pulse width modulation, which is usually something involved when it comes to lighting for video work. However, they operate at such an insanely fast rate, 10 kHz to be exact, that any problems with flicker during video recording are completely eliminated at shutter speeds below about 1/1000th of a second, so it's perfectly adequate for this use case. So what we need to do first is get a piece of spare false leather and poke some holes in it for the dimmer's potentiometers to fit through. Before pushing through the shafts, we'll of course have to pull off the knobs and unscrew the nuts. On one side, we can now make two more holes for the panel's power wires to fit through, after which each individual pair of wires can be soldered to the outputs of the dimmers, being careful of the polarity, which is thankfully marked on the bottom. Once both wires have been soldered in place, we need to bridge the DC input contacts with some wire so that they're both joined in parallel like so. With that done, we now need to get a length of cable containing two wires, like an old mains cable. We need to then make two more holes on the other side of the dimmer unit, through which we can thread this cable and solder it to the DC input of the nearest dimmer. Now we can add some glue to the bottom of both dimmers and stick on a piece of thin board to join them together. After this is dried, the false leather can then be drawn tightly around the dimmers and then glued in place with some super glue. After cutting down each corner, the sides too can be tightly glued in place. Now the nuts can be tightened back up and the knobs pushed back on. This gives us a nice little dimming unit that's light and very compact.
Oh, so yours isn't going to be up for a
The
while.
last thing we
There's
need to
two
do
things
is get a
ahead of
power
us.
socket that's the right size for the power supply you'll be using. More on that in a sec. It can then be soldered to the other end of the DC input cable, using some heat shrink to make it nice and neat.
Okay,
Now
so
the
what
panel
did
is
you
ready to
get
be
for
powered
that
up,
first one?
for which we'll need a 19-volt power
Wind chill
adapter.
factor.
Now you might be thinking, hold on,
Yeah.
the LED strips are rated for 12
25,
volts. Won't powering them with
0,
19 volts fry them?
Negative
Well,
24.
no, because as you
What
remember,
conditions
we
would
wired
result
the
in a wind
LEDs
chill
into
factor
two
of
groups of
negative
8,
11?
which we then connected in series.
5
This
miles
means
an
that
hour
with a 19-volt
at
power supply,
0.
each strip receives only
And
9.5 volts. There are some very good
25
reasons for
miles
doing
an
this.
hour
The first of which
at
is to improve the
10.
panel's longevity.
Now it's
You see,
possible
the
there
strips
might be some
themselves,
over
when
here
powered with 12
someplace,
volts,
like
actually get quite hot.
1,000 miles
This
an
isn't too
hour
much of a
at,
problem if they were mounted
I don't
to
know,
a
I mean, it's
metallic
possible.
surface, as it would help to dissipate the heat. However,
So,
we've mounted
that's
them to
the first
fabric,
part.
and there's
That's
really
the
nowhere for the
old
heat to go. So powering
wind
them
chill
with
factor.
9.5 volts
This
much
is
more
the
sensible,
new
as it means
wind
that they now
chill
only
factor.
get vaguely warm,
So
allowing the
the,
panel itself to be left on
this is about 10
indefinitely
years ago
without
or
any
so.
worry about the
The
LED's
National Weather
overheating
Service
and
said,
having
you
a
know what,
reduced
the
lifespan.
one that we're using isn't
The second reason
real
for undervolting
accurate,
them is that it
and
makes
so they
powering
came
them
up with
so
a
much
different
easier.
chart that you see down at the
19-volt
bottom of the
power
page. Now let's
adapters are
answer
very
the questions,
commonplace thanks to
those
their
exact
use with
same
laptops.
questions using the bottom
You
chart.
may very well have an
So
old power
0
adapter just lying
and
around which you can reuse with this project.
What was it,
thus
25?
keeping the overall costs down, which was one of the
0
main
and
priorities
25, what
with
do you
this
get?
build. All you've got to do is make
Negative
sure that it can
24.
supply
Is it the
3
same
amps or
temperature?
more, and you're good to go.
Pardon?
So the only thing
Okay,
left
how
to do
about
now is make a mount to
what
which we can
results
attach
in a
an arm,
negative 11?
allowing us to clamp the light to pretty much anything we
Well, a
want.
temperature
To do
of
this, we'll need 2 thin sheets of aluminium,
0
each
and
being 3
5, and a
centimeters wide
temperature
and
of
50 centimeters long. As they're so thin, it's pretty easy to trim these off a larger
15
piece by
and
simply scoring it
what did you
first
say?
with a knife and then bending
55
it
or
repeatedly until it
60,
separates.
and a temperature of
The corners can then be
0
trimmed down to make a 90
and 5.
degree
So anyway,
point
you
at
see
each
how
end.
the different
While I didn't do this to
the
mine
different
initially,
factors
I
are
do
different
recommend
there.
that
But
you
the
use a
part that I
file
like
to
about
round off
this
these edges afterwards
is
for
they
safety
took
reasons. Now we can clamp them down on
and
top
they
of each
made
other
that
and drill a
into
hole
a
through them at the
formula
very
that you
centre.
see here.
For a clean
where
and
T
accurate cut,
is the
it's worth starting with a small
temperature
drill
and
bit,
V is the
progressively
velocity of the
moving to a
wind.
larger one until it's 6.5 millimeters
35.74
wide.
plus
A knife can then be used to tighten it up.
0.6215T minus
The next thing we'll need is the arm itself,
35.75V, velocity
which features a
to
clamp at one end.
0.16
This thing
plus
can be adjusted into pretty much any
0.4275
position, and when tightened,
times
is very
V
rigid.
to the 0.16.
Again, I've placed
I want you
international
to
purchase
notice
rates to a
that
good
they
low-cost one
combined
description.
those three
All we need to do
factors
now
in a
is unscrew
different
the
way
pad from one
than we
end,
did with the
push
BMI
the
formula.
bolt
The
through the hole
BMI
in the
formula was
aluminium
rather
strips,
simplistic, right?
and then screw the
But I
pad
want
back
you to
on
notice
with the rubber
something
bit
really
facing the
different.
aluminium.
And that is, remember that for
The corners of
BMI
the
formula
strips
we
can then
had
be
to the
inserted
height
into the corner pockets on the panel, and with that,
was
the whole thing is completed.
squared, right?
So how
This
well
one,
do they
it
perform?
says
Well, colour rendering wise, they do an excellent job, and I measured a CRI of 85
Okay,
with my
now think about
spectrophotometer,
that.
which isn't bad at all
To the
considering the cost of the
0.16.
strips.
Would you agree
Here, for
that any
example,
number
I
to the
have the
first is
LED
that
panel
number?
mounted off to my left.
Okay?
And as you
If
can
that
see, skin
to
tones
the
look lovely
any
and
number
natural.
bigger than one,
In
the
fact,
number is
compared to
going
my
to get
previous
bigger,
panel that I
right?
built with lower
What
CRI strips,
happens
it positively
if the
shines.
number is
Now, speaking of
smaller
shining, they're
than
also
one?
very
As the number
bright,
gets
despite the
closer
strips being
and
under
closer to zero.
This is thanks to the LEDs themselves being
It's,
really
your
efficient.
answer is going
so
to get
what for
smaller
what
and smaller
produce a lot
until
of
at
light.
zero.
For example,
take a
here's
number
a
and raise it
comparison
to
of the
zero
brightness
power.
with my old panel. As you can see, they are
Do it.
roughly
What'd you get?
equivalent, but the main
You do
difference
not
is
get
that the
zero.
old panel uses
You get
twice as
one.
much
Any number
electricity to
to the
produce the
zeroth
same amount
power
of light as the
is
new
one.
Crazy.
Okay, and
I
the
personally
other
really
part
love
that I
how
want you to
lightweight
notice
these are
is
as well,
we
as it
do
allows you to
not
put them
have
pretty much anywhere.
algebra
And if you knock
to
one
solve
over, it's
this
unlikely
part
to
right
damage
here.
anything.
Do you notice that we
Now,
have
don't
both
assume
of
they're
those
just for video
variables
work
together?
either. Since making
So
a
we
few, I've used
can't
them
write
regularly
a
for general
simplified
illumination, as the light they give off
version
is so
of
pleasant.
this
They also
formula.
make for excellent work
Okay,
lights too,
we have to
particularly
plug in
because
the
of their
values.
versatility when it
So at
comes
the
to mounting
university a few
options.
years ago, I took a
So
class on
overall,
how
a
to
very
solve
solid
these kinds
design
of
that's
things.
not only practical,
And the
but
way
also
they
perform
do
as
it
well.
in that class
By
is
the way,
way
if the
we would
30
do
centimeter
stuff
square
if we
version
were
isn't
looking for
bright
an
enough
answer
for
and we
you,
didn't know
it's
how
very
else to
easy
do
to
it.
double the
We would
brightness
just
by
keep on
using
plugging
twice
in
as many
answers,
LED
plugging
strips,
in numbers
giving
until
you
we
a
got
panel
closer
with
and
twice
closer
the
to the right
surface
answer.
area. The only
Okay?
differences
The
in
only
the build
difference
process
is they
are
would
that you
program
need
the
2 rows of
calculate
LEDs in each
computer
colour temperature,
to do it
so 4
for
in
them,
total,
and so you
which need
just
to be
let the
cut into
computer run
45
through and it'll
centimeter
find
lengths.
the answer.
These can
But
then be
it does
stripped
like
down
a
to a
million
51
calculations a
centimeter square
second,
cutout.
so it
When I was
seems
making
as
this
though
one, I tried a different
it's
glue
just
method by
instantaneous,
spreading
but
it
it's
around the
actually
area
going
first.
through
It's a little quicker
a
doing it
million
this way,
different
but make sure that the
calculations
glue doesn't
until
start to
you get
dry by the time you
answer.
put on the last few
That's what you
strips.
see here with this windshield
The
factor.
wires too need to be longer and feature
Okay,
12
so
exposed
you have
sections instead of
meteorology
just
in
9.
which they develop
Also,
these
the power
models.
adapter has to be able
Now,
to deliver at
we
least 6
talked
amps
a few
instead of
weeks
3.
ago about that hurricane
The brightness of this bigger
Lou
panel
that
is
went to North
incredible,
Carolina.
so if you need some seriously
Oscar,
bright
no, that's
panels,
not-
I do give
what was
them a
the
hearty
name?
recommendation. Though
Yeah.
for most of us, the 30 centimeter square version
Anybody
is
remember?
more than adequate.
It was a few weeks ago.
So I hope hope you've enjoyed this video.
those
If you have, don't forget to hit that like button
the
and
landfall
maybe
within
consider
like
subscribing as well,
5
because that way you'll be notified
So
next
a
time
day
I
in
upload
advance,
my next
or
how-to
maybe
video.
2 days in advance.
I'm Matt,
But
and thank you
Florence,
very much for
that's
watching.
why I was looking for guys in
Yeah.
my head. And I should have been looking for girls. Oh, which by the way, did you notice that they switched? They used to always have hurricanes be female names, and a few years ago they switched them so half of them are male and half of them are female. Every other letter they switch off. So that's why the one that just landed was a guy's name, because that's the letter of the alphabet that we're on. I don't know. I don't know if it was the girls complaining or the guys complaining. I want to have a hurricane named after me. There'll never be another Hurricane Sandy.
Now, if you've
Once
ever
they get a
wanted to
really
mount
bad
a
one, they
TV onto
retire
the
that
wall,
name
you'll
permanently.
know that you'll
There'll
have
never
to
be
use
another
a
Hurricane
wall button,
Camille.
and this can
So my
push
wife
the
likes
TV
to
out
say,
by
yep,
quite a lot, and
they have reached
tends
the
to make the TV look quite
adult
smooth.
age. They
This
had a
one in
Hurricane
particular
Sandy.
just takes over the room, and
Now
it's
she
the
can
first
die
thing
happy.
you notice when you come in.
A Hurricane
So what I want
Maddie.
to do in this video is see whether I can make
What?
a fake wall
Hurricane
that
Maddie.
appears to be flush with the wall.
You think
And,
Floyd?
it's going to be the same size as this. This is 42 inches.
Esther?
Hopefully it will be far
I
less.
don't know. Anyway,
but still
the part that I'd like you to notice about those hurricane predictions
Now,
is
it's all going to
it
be on a tight
requires
budget, so
computers
hopefully
with
you'll be able to
huge
apply what I do here to
calculating
any setups
skills
you might
because
want
they
to
don't
do.
have the math
Other than that,
to solve it
keep
any
going,
other way.
and I hope you enjoy
We
it.
do have math for these kinds of questions. Let's do
So,
page
after looking around
66.
local adverts,
Number
we found they
these
used
questions right
42-inch
here.
TV.
Go.
It didn't come with a stand, but that's okay, as I'm going to be mounting it onto a wall. It's also full HD, with a surprisingly decent picture quality, which is great as it only cost £80. Now, the TV itself is about 5 centimetres deep on its own, but as the connectors are straight on the back, they add another 5 centimetres, making for a total of 10 centimetres of thickness. That's hardly thin. So what I want to do is strip the TV down to make it as thin as possible.
Yeah, I should have put all of those on the same page.
So after
shouldn't I?
undoing several
This is not very good planning on my part. Here, I'll tell you what. I'll put the chart on my page so that you don't have to page backwards, okay?
The panel on its own with no
Then you
outer
can.
casing.
You don't know how to do it?
On the back of the panel are mounted several circuit boards, and in an effort to allow full access to the inputs and to reduce
So
the
it's
overall
not
thickness of the
a
TV,
question
I've
of
removed
and,
both
it's a
the
question
signal
of
board
want.
and the power board for
Exactly.
mounting it elsewhere in just a
I'm
second.
feeling it too. It's Thursday.
This means that the panel itself can be mounted
You guys
directly
get
to
'em all?
a large
You know what you're doing?
fiberboard sheet with
Anybody
practically
need some
no
help?
gap at the back, which in turn can be screwed to the wall itself.
Rach, I have
The
that
two
chart up
circuit
here.
boards
So if
can
you want
now
to
be
just keep
mounted
yours
safely
your
underneath
page
and
on
plugged
the other
back
side,
into
then you
the
don't have to
TV.
look back.
Thank you.
Yep.
Now, I want this setup to be completely self-contained, including having a DVD player built in. Unfortunately, even the smallest one I could find was still
Doing
too
okay,
thick,
Spawn?
so I stripped it down to its bare components.
Oh, doing okay?
Truck,
You got 'em all filled out?
and I was honestly expecting
You need some help?
a little bit more inside this.
I'm on. I don't think so.
Anyway, after extending the playback buttons to a separate rough button strip, I could
So
then
a
mount all of
5
these bits underneath
mile an
the
hour
TV
change.
and plug
So
it
let's
all in.
compare these two
Now, you may
columns
notice this small
Notice
display
you go
down
from
here, and that's for a
negative
special
19
hack
to
that
negative
overrides the
26.
backlight
That's a
flicker
5-degree
frequency
change,
to synchronize it with the
Do
frame rate,
5
which I'll
this
go into
way.
more detail about in just a bit.
Do you ever
Now,
get
all this
a
is hooked up to a
5-degree
power
change
cable that
if you
discreetly
change the
runs
speed?
along the ceiling edge to a wall socket.
No. So
And
which
I
has a
have some
greater
chambers
effect?
for the
Changing the
speakers.
temperature by
Now,
5
these chambers
or
have
changing
some
the wind
springs
speed
stuck
by
around
5?
them to make a proper seal.
Change the
and
temperature by
improve
5
the
has a
overall
bigger
sound,
effect
which
than
ended up
changing
working
the wind
really
speed
well
by 5.
and is a step up above how
And
the
in
TV
fact,
sounded originally
people have a
due to less
difficulty
resonance.
gauging the speed of the
So
wind.
with all that done, it's
No, they'll
finally
say
time
5
to
miles
add the
an hour
front
and it's
panel
not
to
5
cover
miles
all of this up. Again, I used fiberboard
we were
for this,
fishing up
to the back of
on,
which the speakers themselves have been mounted.
Red Cedar Lake
Once in position, this
a
whole
few
panel
years
could
ago.
simply be screwed in place.
And these guys jumped into the water and they
Now,
said, "Oh,
at
this
this
water
point,
is like
I realized
40
that
degrees."
the drive used in
And
the
I yelled out,
DVD player
68.
actually wasn't designed to be
It
used
just
vertically.
felt
so
really
discs
cold
would just
because
fall out
they-
before the tray
they were
could close.
comparing, I
To
don't know
fix
what,
this, I made
the
some
water was
little
not 40
supports
degrees.
with Sugu
40-degree water
which
is
hold onto the
really
discs
cold.
well and prevents them from
When
falling
I fell
out.
through the ice, don't tell Sandy.
So with that,
Um,
the whole thing can be painted
I
and
froze
tighten
and
things up
solid.
nicely.
Luckily, we had dry
Now,
clothes
I've
and
actually
pickup,
managed to
otherwise I
retain
think I'd have
full
died.
access
It was
to the
just-
signal
it was
inputs
brutal.
underneath this cover if I ever need to plug something extra in. And I've
About
left some
3
holes
feet.
for the infrared receivers.
We were walking
so
along
that all
and
the remotes still work.
it had snowed like 6
Even the
inches that
TV's
night,
physical buttons
and we were
remain
going past a
accessible,
muskrat
as I've stuck
hut,
them to the side here.
and the
Now, the very final
muskrat's
thing to
air
do is
hole
add something
had
to
gotten
cover the
filled
panel
with snow, and so I was
bezel.
walking next to
What I'm
Eli,
going to use for this
and he looked
is
over at me, and I
kitchen
was
top edging, which I
down in
simply
the
stuck
down
place,
in the water
finishing
because
off
I had
nicely.
fallen into the muskrat's
So, was all this
breathing hole.
worth it?
So I only got wet
The
up to
original
about
requirement attempt was to make the TV
You know, I
have
wasn't
less
gonna
of a
drop it.
presence in the
Don't
room
tell Sandy that.
by making the whole thing
She'll
significantly
never let
thinner.
me go
I do
ice fishing
personally
again.
think that this
She'll
is been
make
achieved,
me wear my
and
life
it's helped
jacket
along a
while
lot
I
by the
ice
fake
fishing.
walls
Okay.
around it, because it makes the
No,
front of
the
TV
next one.
flush
How
with
does
what
the
appears to be
formula
wall,
reflect a
and
greater
that goes a
influence
long way
on wind chill?
to
So you
mimicking
look here.
one of those
What do they
super
do with
expensive
this to
wallpaper
show
TVs? And it's actually,
that the
you know, it worked really well in
temperature
person.
has a greater
Now, before I
changes in
sign off, I'd
temperature
just like to
have a
cover
greater
the
effect
frame rate
than the
override
changes in
feature I
wind
mentioned
velocity.
earlier. So this hack came about when I noticed
To
that
make
one of
the
the circuit
wind chill
boards
work
had a
out,
wire
they
labelled
multiply
as dimmer,
the temperature
which
by
got
a
me
smaller
excited
number,
as it turned
right?
out to be used for the
Then
pulse
they
width
do
modulation
the
signal,
velocity.
which sets
The other
backlight
thing they change
brightness
is
by
they raise the
turning it
velocity
on or
not
off,
to a
depending on whether a
positive
small
power.
voltage is applied
I'm
to this
power
connection.
bigger than one, but smaller
With
than one.
voltage, the
Let's do
backlight
it on our
turns on,
calculator and see
without
what we
it,
get.
it turns off.
Let's take
and this happens
a
hundreds of
20
times a
mile an
second,
hour
depending on the
velocity
brightness setting on the TV.
to the
This flickering happens too rapidly to see with your eyes, so instead it's perceived as lower
0.16.
brightness. So, in order to manually manipulate
Oops, you
this
can't see
signal,
that.
I bought a tiny little pulse width modulation controller, which allows you to set how many times it generates.
So in other
a pulse
words,
per
a
second,
20 mile an
and
hour,
also the duration
a 20
of each
mile an hour
pulse.
wind
I then wired
is
this up
only
to the
going
dimmer
to
connection
affect
and added
the
a switch
temp-
that
the
allowed
wind
me to
chill
go
factor
through
by
the
about
TV's
0.16.
original brightness signal
Okay?
and this
The
new
last
override
one is
signal.
very interesting.
Now, before I
How
show
do
you
we
why I
write
bothered with this, I need to give you a quick
velocity
lesson on how your eyes
to the
perceive motion on screen.
0.16 any other
Now,
way?
the motion we see on screens is made up of a lot of still images that are shown in rapid succession. When LCD panels change between these images, they hold each image on screen until it's time for the next one, where it instantly updates it and then holds it again. This happens up to 60 times a second. Now, because of the way our eyes work, when tracking moving objects across a screen, it tends to get blurred out because your
let's
eye
try
is
this.
physically moving, but each image is stationary. One way to get around this is by showing more images per second, which is what a lot of modern TVs attempt with some sort of motion smoothing
reciprocal
feature, which
key
insert fake
is
guessed
6.25.
frames, in between
Okay?
the real ones.
If
but
we
this can
take
give content like films a sort of soap opera effect because it can look overly
the
fluid. Now,
6.25
just
two-fifth
flash
root
each frame of video
of 20,
rather than keeping it on
do you
screen
see we
until
get
it's
the
time for
exact
the
same
next one to
thing?
show. It keeps the
So we
image
could
on your
say
vision for a small
this is
period
the
of time
same
due to
as
persistence of vision in your eyes. This completely
the
eliminates all motion blur because your brain literally
1
assumes
over
what happens
0.16
between each
root
flickered frame,
of
and your
the
eye
velocity.
can't blur it out because there's nothing there to
So that's
blur
one
out
of the
because it's got dark.
mathematical things that we're going to be
As I
studying
can now
when
manually
we get
control the
into
backlight,
college
I can set
algebra,
it to strobe
is we're
at
going
the
to be
same
studying
frame
how
rate as whatever
the
video I'm watching.
roots are
meaning that
related
each
to
frame
the
is shown
powers.
just once.
So if you
as a
take the
flash.
reciprocal of
Obviously,
the
this
power,
is much dimmer,
you get
so
the
it's only
root.
usable in
I'll
dark
give you an
conditions,
example
but the
on your
effect on
calculator.
motion
Let's
is
say that you were
astounding,
trying to
because
find the
not
cube
only
root of a
is
number.
motion blur
If you notice,
eliminated,
there's
so
no
much so
cube
that a
root here.
cursor moving
But if we
rapidly
press
across the screen
27
now looks
to
just
the
as clear as if it was stationary, but in films,
1/3
everything suddenly becomes fluid and smooth, which is
we
down to your
get
brain
the
literally
cube
assuming
root
that it's missed something
of
and fills it in
27.
for you.
Okay, so
just
you
like
can
when you
take the
blink.
reciprocal
It's
of the
really
power,
weird and has to be
and that
observed
would be the
properly
root
to be
that you
understood.
would use.
And while I won't
The
be
cube
using
root
this
of
override
27
often, it was
is
definitely worth
the same
experimenting
as raising
with for the sake of
27
learning.
to the 1/3.
So I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's definitely been
Page.
a fun one for me to make, and I think the final result has worked beautifully. Right, so if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like.
I want to skip
And
over
other than
these
that,
because we only have a
other than
few
that,
minutes
you've
left,
been watching
and I want to
VR
go
by
to
turns, and I hope to see you next time.
powers.
Goodbye for now.
One of the things that you have to be able to do is to figure out what happens when you multiply numbers that are raised to the power. So 10 to the negative 6 times 10 to the negative 6. Anybody know the answer? Close. 10 to the negative 12. So when you multiply numbers, you add their exponent. So number 2, what would the answer be? What? 10, did you?
I said 11.
10 to the 11th, very good. Now, This next one down, if you raise a power to a power, or in other words, if you exponentiate a power, you
smartphone, so you can watch films
multiply the exponents. What do you get?
Now, I've
10 to that, somebody said it, negative 15.
As they want to
10 to
and
the
bring people together this summer, this
20.
uses
Am I going too fast for you?
readily available so that
10 to
everyone
the
can chip in and enjoy
25th.
Now,
If you divide numbers, you subtract exponents. 2 minus 6 is,
once you've made it.
or 2 minus negative 6, sorry about that, is positive 8, right? 2 minus negative 6 is positive 8.
Before we get building this, I'll just show
This
you how to
one,
make a simple
negative 4 minus negative 5, positive 1. I see you not writing them down. Everybody's.
Oh, I know how to
is
do
to
this.
take a shoe.
Oh, you do? Okay.
This is the one thing I know how to do.
For a to fit in.
No, we are now on day 30 whatever, and I finally have something that I know how to do. Okay, 2 divided by negative 2 is,
and as you can see, it can slide forwards
to the 4. Very good. 4 divided by negative 4, the most popular wrong answer is 0. 8. Very good. Okay, we'll see you on Monday. We have 4 count of days left of class.
Let's go. When did the class go, Kev?
But one thing you probably noticed is that it's upside down. And that's because the magnifying glass the partial way around this is to lock the phone's location, but doing this still leaves it flipped horizontally, meaning that text is completely unreadable. And you can't do things like play games with the game. So, while this is a very simple project, I think we can take it one step further and make the ultimate smartphone project. Let's see what we can do. So to make the main body of the projector, we need to get a piece of craft cardboard and mark it down the middle using a pen. Now, equal distance from
Caitlin, how did that work that you never got a copy of it? Did you miss the first day of class?
Divided horizontally.
They're all messed up. They're all
The supplement.
So at this point we can take the lens that we
But it's missing some pages.
I'll be explaining
Why did I print that out for you?
Place it in the middle of the front third.
Oh, that was Rachel. Okay, I thought I was printing it out for you.
With that done, we can now cut out some right-angled triangles
Did I
branching
give it
out
to
from
you?
the horizontal lines.
Oh, okay.
So before we fold this up to make the main lines of the project,
I'm losing it.
Bye, Kev.
See ya.
See you Monday. Have a good weekend.
The nice thing is that it's not a very far journey to losing it, because I'm really close to the edge at the beginning. So
all I had to do was take.
all you had to do was just a little bit of a shove, and I was off the edge.
Yeah, all I had to do was take this class, Kev.
Do you not want to? I don't have any time really. Well, not my like you already tried. And then so when, because I didn't look at the presentation thing yet, so when you click on it or whatever, does it kind of, it gives you an outline of how to do it? Because I never used PowerPoint yet. So it gives you an outline of how to use PowerPoint, or not how to use PowerPoint, but like what you should
Yeah, what you should do.
Like you should put like these facts, those facts, or this argument.
You have to,
It gives you an outline of what to do on PowerPoint.
kind of, yeah, you gotta put, go through your theory, grid, and you have to, yeah, because you need like ethical subjectives, yeah.
How many do you need to pick like one or like three?
I picked like 5.
So does it say, is there a
Different
limit?
ones.
Or I mean, is there like how many you need? Like does it say?
It doesn't say limit.